Hello friends, today we are going to learn how to wire a single phase motor using a three-phase contactor. So as you are looking into the slide, we have a single phase motor, we have a contactor which is three phase, then we have an overload relay, we also have fuse or a circuit breaker which is used for protection. Overload is also used for protection. Before going ahead, we will just discuss how a contactor actually works. So the contactor will have three terminals, that is, these are L1, L2, L3 terminals. This 2, 4 and 6 are T1, T2, T3 terminals. That these are the bottom are the motor terminals and the top are the voltage terminals or line terminals. Then this contactor also has an energizing coil, and it is always given the name as A1 and A2. Then we also have an auxiliary contact which is always numbered as 13 and 14. Then we have a overload relay which is always used for protection of the single phase motor. Now whenever there is some trip or the motor is overloaded or the motor has some short circuit, then this overload relay takes care that the motor winding doesn't get burned out. It directly cuts off the line supply from the motor terminals. Then we also have a start button. Now why do we have a start button? Because we are now going to do the wiring of a single phase motor controller, that is what we call as single start stop button will be used to control a single phase motor. You can also call this as a dual starter, but in this we are just going to pick up the contactor. Now how it is going to first of all wired, and then how it gets actually operated, that I will let you know. So see, there is an L1 line terminal, this is a neutral terminal, that is single phase is available here. Then as this is a three phase contactor, we have three terminals, but we are not going to use this all the three terminals. We are going to use only two terminals, that is 1 and 2 is directly connected to the line, and 5 and 6 are connected to the neutral. Now you all know that current can pass only when the loop is completed. Now for completing the loop, how the wiring can be done is we can connect the third terminal to the overload relays third terminal, that is 5 and 6. That is, the wire should be taken from the third terminal of the contactor and connected to the sixth terminal of the overload. The overload's fifth terminal will be connected to the sixth terminal of the contactor, and the fifth is given the neutral. That is, we are going to give a closed path like this. Okay, now this is how we are going to convert a three-phase contactor to be used to a single-phase contactor. This is very important. The rest of the things are very common. They are common to three-phase motor as well as single-phase motor. This you can call this is a starter wiring. How to do the starter wiring? Let's know. For doing this, we are going to use this NC contact. Now this NC contact can be called as reset or a stop button. Now how they have wired it? Let's see. The line supply is taken from this side, and then it goes down and it is connected to the 96 number terminal. The 95 number terminal is connected to the start input of the start push button. Now as this is a normally open push button, its status is open. So till 17 the current will flow, and from 18 onwards the loop is still unclosed because it is an open connection. Then once the person presses this start button, how will the current flow? See, this is L1. L1 will give the current supply to the stop button. As it is normally closed, the circuit is closed, the current will start flowing from this and come till 17. Once the person presses the start will be closed, and 17 and 18 terminals will be connected normally closed. Then the same supply line will be given to the A2 terminal of the energizing coil. A1 terminal is already connected to the neutral. That means we have given a closed path for the coil to get energized. That is, 230 volts is applied across the energizing coil. Once this is done, the coil gets energized and the plunger of the contactor gets pulled inwards. As soon as this get pulled in, the terminals 1 and 2 and 5 and 6 get connected. Even 3 and 4 are also connected, and the current starts flowing and the motor starts running. This is how a single phase motor wiring can be done. Now what is the purpose of this 13 and 14? This 13 and 14 are nothing but the auxiliary contacts. Now what is the significance of this contact? Now once I press start, it's a push button. So the person is not going to keep the start button continuously pressed. For that purpose, we are going there to use this 13 and 14 contact, so that it will keep this continuously on. The supply will be continuously on from this. We can interrupt the supply only by pressing the reset button or the stop button, or if the overload trips. This is how we can control a single phase motor using a 3-phase contactor. Now we will learn how to control a 3-phase motor using a 3-phase contactor, and the energizing coil is of 230 volt AC. Now how is the wiring done? We will go into a bit detail. Again, as per the previous slide, we also have here the protecting elements as fuses or circuit breakers. Either or can suffice our problem. We have L1, L2, L3 as a line supplies. Contactor will be having 3 terminals for line connection, 3 terminals, bottom 3 terminals for the motor connections. Between contactor and the motor, we have an overload relay, whose also will be having 3 terminals at the top and at the 3 terminals at the bottom. The purpose of the overload relay again is same, as it will act as a protective device to protect the motor from overloading or short circuiting. Now, how is the same coil or the same contactor be used to control a 3-phase motor and a single phase motor as well? Now, the only difference which they are going to make in the wiring is as line L1, L2, L3, all the 3 terminals are directly connected to the 1, 2, 3 terminals of the contactor, and the contactor second terminals, that is motor terminals, are also directly connected to the overload. The only change they are going to make is the one line supply will be given from the stop terminals, that is 95, 96, and the same is going towards the start button. Now again, the start input is push button, so the coil is not going to remain energized. It is not going to activate it until and unless someone presses the start button. Now how it again, if someone presses the button, how the current will flow? See, line supply is coming from here. The stop button is normally closed. Again, start button is pressed by the user. This path gets closed and the coil A1 and A2 gets energized. Due to the energizing, the plunger of the contactor is being plugged in and the contacts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are given the line supply. Also, due to the plunging, 13 and 14 also now get connected. That is, normally open contact become normally closed contact, and so the coil remains connected even though my start button is released. If I want to stop this 3-phase motor running, I need to open the stop contact, or I need to reset, or I want to test this trip contact, that is overload is being tripped. If this one is open, the 3-phase motor will stop running and can be controlled. Again, if someone wants to start it, he has to press start once, and after he releases it, 13 and 14 will surely take care that the motor is continuously running, and there is no any jog operation, that is on off will not take. Okay, so this is how the 3-phase motor will be controlled or will be wired using a 3-phase contactor and a 230 volt AC coil. Again, we have a third slide which discusses how to wire a 3-phase contactor using a 415 volt AC coil, and a 3-phase motor will be running using the same. Now, how it can be wired? The first basic things, that is fuses and circuit are common, contactor is common, overload is common, start push button is common, stop push button is common. What is the only difference which is being done here is the A1 A2 coil is given supply like this one. First, L1 is given to A1, that is energizing coil, and how the next terminal is being floated. The L3 third line connection is taken from this, given to the stop button, then the stop button it is given to start push button, and from the start push button it is given to A2, and this is how the supply gets connected, that is the loop is closed. See how the loop is being closed. It starts from L3 going downwards, it comes to the stop button, then it comes to start button, then it comes to A2, and if the coil is energized, the negative is given by this, that is a 415 volt AC is provided to this AC coil A1 A2, and the contactor plunger gets plunged in, and the 13 and 14 contacts get closed, so which will take care that start, even if someone releases the start push button, the 13 and 14 will keep the three-phase motor continuously running in the connection. When someone wants to stop the motor, it is very clear that he has to press the stop button, which will make this normally closed contact normally open, that is 95-96 will get open and the circuit will be wrecked. Or in some cases, if the motor is tripped or there is some short circuit, or the motor is overloaded and overcurrent is being taken, the overload will get tripped and this connection will get open and the motor will stop running. This was how we learned how to wire a three-phase motor, a single phase motor, and the use of three-phase contactor with single phase coil and a three-phase coil. Thanks for watching.